The most broken jutsu in all of Naruto. That is what we're doing today. We're going to be ranking the top 10 most broken jutsu when it comes to combat. And that is a very important key detail we need to discuss. We're not going over just the most broken jutsu in general, because there's going to be an honorable mentions list in this video that I very much suggest listening to, but it's going to go over some of the most broken abilities that just didn't meet the criteria that we're going for in this video. These are the hacks abilities when we're talking about combat, if people were in a Roman Colosseum battling each other, not necessarily the most broken techniques. So to give you an example, something like the Shadow Clone Jutsu is actually not included on this list. That is a very broken ability for learning information and gaining skills and knowledge quickly. It can also be very deadly if you have an above average use of chakra, but most people aren't a Naruto that has infinite amounts of chakra where the technique becomes truly broken in a combat sense. So I'm actually not putting it in the top 10. It is just an honorable mention, that one. And there's going to be a few techniques like that that we're going to discuss when we do the honorable mentions. It's also important to know, we just need to do a little bit more table setting. There is no just Kekai Genkai listed as a placement. There are abilities from Kekai Genkais, but it's not just wood style number 3 most broken jutsu. Because that's a Kekai Genkai, I'm not counting it. If we're going to use a wood style jutsu, it would be something like, the wood dragon, the 1,000-arm Buddha technique, things like that, not specific Kekai Genkai. But I think that's enough housekeeping here. Let's get started on this video. And in 10th place, we have Minato Namikaze's Flying Raijin technique. It's also prudent to mention that it's Tobirama's Flying Raijin technique as well, because we're going to go into the difference that different users can acquire with this one technique. Because you might already be clicking off this video like, Jack, you're a moron. The Flying Raijin technique, that's a top 5 ninjutsu. And a lot of people might think that because Minato is such a popular character. However, the Flying Raijin technique, as versatile and as powerful as it is, you can't give me a teleporting ability in fiction and I will give you a strong ability. There is no weak form of spatial teleportation techniques. The only thing is, in Minato's case, with the Flying Raijin technique, it is as powerful as it is thanks to Minato. Because you need the natural speed to begin with. I don't know if people are aware of this, but Minato is one of the fastest, if not the fastest character, just with pure speed as well, not even getting into teleportation. But then you also have the fact that it's the reaction time and the reflexes that come along with it. To use the most basic example, where Minato teleports throws his kunai, teleports in front of a truth-seeking orb, and then teleports that away. You can't give Flying Raijin to, any run-of-the-mill Jonin and have them do that. It takes an absurd level of just natural talent, natural physical stats, natural reflexes to be able to pull something like that off while in accompanying with the broken jutsu of the Flying Raijin. I don't even reckon someone like Tobirama, the technique's founder, would be able to do something like that. And you might be thinking, well, Jack, I have a different of opinion then. It shouldn't be a top 5 jutsu. It shouldn't even be on this list if it's not accessible to other people. But I push back on that. It's why it's 10th place. I do think people can still get a lot of use out of it. Like if we gave it to someone like Azuma, for instance, like a special Jonin, but no one's putting him in like a top 30 most powerful Naruto character list. If you give that to him, it adds such a wide range to his arsenal where he would bump up a huge amount of placements because of everything it can bring to the table. It can be used, you can place a marker on someone and that marker can stay on that person for 15 years. In a lot of ways, if you're able to touch your opponent, it's a one-hit kill move because you can teleport behind them and, really kind of send them to the Shinigami. The only issue there is that the really strong people in Naruto, that's not working on them. They're not just getting a one-hit kill with the with like teleporting behind someone with the Flying Raijin, just because the sheer level of experience that other shinobi have in this series. So it is a does deserve placement on the top 10 most broken jutsu, but it is in 10th place. Now, 9th place is a similar kind of asterisk next to the jutsu, and it is Conan's 600 billion paper bomb massive just piss off technique. It is insanely powerful. I don't need to go into why it's insanely powerful. There's like 600 billion paper bombs that explode for over 10 minutes. It's essentially a nuclear bomb that she's firing off at people, and it would take down pretty much everyone in the Naruto verse that wasn't a top tier, top 10 character in the series. The reason why it's only 9th place is that it takes a lot of prep time to set up. However, and this is where we get into honorable mentions later, it is still accessible to do, and that is a very important talking point. I'm going to give some spoilers to one jutsu that's on the honorable mentions list. The Izanagi technique, the jutsu that's used to deflect this 600 billion paper bomb technique, that is not on this list. Because you can only use it once before losing your eyesight, despite how deadly it is, the drawbacks to it are so kind of significant where I can find 10 other jutsu in this series that don't come with any drawbacks like that. You don't die using it, you don't get blinded using it. Now, it does take a lot of prep time, it takes a lot of money to set this up, but technically speaking, apologies, if you're in the right, scenario, if you're someone like a leader of a village, you could use this technique multiple times throughout your lifespan. It's not just a one-hit move and then you're blinded and you're incapacitated and you can never use it again. So it is on this list, and it is our 9th place, just through the sheer the destructive power, but also the length of time that it goes off, the way that she uses it in the water as well, where the opponent is dropping and limits any form of traveling out of the AoE range of the technique. A truly, truly powerful technique, and it deserves 9th place. 8th place, ironically enough, we have the 8 gates technique. Now, this one is also have to chuck some asterisks next to it, because this technique would not be on this list if we were talking about the last 8th gate. If we were including that and we were allowing it, it would probably be in the top 5 most broken jutsu. We're not counting the last technique of this overall jutsu though, because it does kill the user, and in my mind that is an X next to the jutsu of not being included on this list. If this was a smaller show and I could only find like 5 really broken techniques that didn't have drawbacks, then yes, it would be included on it just to kind of fill the ranks. But Naruto is such a wide world that I can find 10 jutsu that are so hacks and so broken that don't have the drawbacks as concrete as dying is. It's the biggest drawback there is for a jutsu. But even from gate 1 to gate 7, it's such a huge power amp that it gives you that it cannot be discredited. It's essentially like the Kaioken from Dragon Ball in a lot of ways. It's not too flashy, but it brings such increase to your physical stats that it is insane. If we go even if we just go up to what Rock Lee can do in the tuning exams, that I scale Gar to like a low Jonin in the tuning exams. So it's taking a Genin up 2 whole ranks into a Jonin level opponent just through opening the 5th gate. It allows insane amounts of speed and strength. Imagine if someone like Naruto could go 7th gate on top of things like Sage mode and Shadow clones and Kurama Chakra modes, or even how it would amp his own techniques, like his Rasengan. It wouldn't so much increase how big the Rasengan is, but the amount of strength that he can use to attack someone with it. In the 6th gate that you can go Morning Peacock, where you get a massive AoE barrage of friction ignited punches that can really take opponents down as strong, well, not as strong as Kisame, but a Kisame clone it can take out immediately. Things like Hiradora, the 7th gate, is taking down opponents as strong as Kisame Hoshigaki. We only ever see the 8 gate techniques used on Rock Lee, Might Guy, and Might Guy's father. When Might Guy's father has it, who is an internal Genin, he's able to take down numerous members of the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. So kind of like what I was going back in the beginning, if you gave it to just a regular Jonin, this is something that really amps their strength up. Now, you do need a lot of discipline, you need a lot of training to be able to activate it, but we see 3 confirmed people in the series have it, and I don't have any question that someone like Naruto, if Guy taught it to him, he would be able to use that. Same with people like Sasuke and stuff like that. So I think it is accessible enough to be counted on this list, and it gets our 8th spot of the most broken abilities, the most broken jutsu in Naruto. Now we have the 7th gate one, and this might be the first one that is really controversial. It's very much overlooked. It's from one of my favorite characters in all of Naruto. In 7th place, we have the giant shark bomb technique from Kisame Hoshigaki. Now, this is a jutsu that is so ridiculously overpowered that just never gets talked about. So I really love that I can bring some attention to it in this video. Kisame's giant shark bomb jutsu is a massive water shark that sprouts out of his hands, you know, the size of kind of like a summoning creature type of thing. It is a huge technique, but where it gains its, what's the right word here, its acclaim, is that it's not just a giant shark water ninjutsu. It devours incoming jutsu, devours the chakra of that technique, and then makes itself bigger. I scale Kisame above, not in just raw power, but in terms of in verse battles, over quite a lot of characters because of this technique. Let's run this through. Naruto, Rasen Shuriken. Kisame Hoshigaki, giant shark bomb, devours the Rasen Shuriken, grows stronger. Techniques like, you know, Jiraiya's oil flame bath bomb technique, massive AoE. The shark being able to devour that, grows stronger, attack Jiraiya. Now, I'm not saying that Kisame automatically beats, you know, War Arc Naruto or anything like that, but it is a jutsu that is so powerful where it's not just absorbing, it's not just defending you, it's also offensively being used to crush an opponent, especially with how powerful the technique is. It's like the one of the most powerful water jutsu, if not the most powerful water jutsu, even without absorbing the chakra, because it's a massive fuck-off shark coming at you that's gigantic proportions. Like, that's taking down all the weaker people in this series, no diff, just with the sheer brutality of the ninjutsu itself, let alone the hack's ability to absorb other ninjutsu. It kind of takes the path of the Praetor path, where they can just absorb ninjutsu that's shot at them, but they can't then like absorb it and then shoot it back at someone. Kisame can absorb it and then keep his attack growing and multiply his own attack to be that much stronger to take down opponents. I said in my video of Jiraiya running the gauntlet, if I remember, I'll chuck it up in the title card. I heavily suggest it. We had Jiraiya take on every member of the Akatsuki. He actually lost to Kisame Hoshigaki in my verse battle with how deadly this technique is with Kisame. Of course, his supporting abilities, Samihara, the giant water bubble techniques, his massive amounts of chakra come into play. But this is a technique where it's not specifically stated that only Kisame can use this because of the sheer amount of chakra that he has. This should be a technique that if it could be mastered by someone like, say, Tobirama, for instance. But it is such a deadly technique. It comes with no drawbacks. The first technique in this list that just doesn't have any drawbacks. So I really love that I can place it in 7th place. I know that might get a lot of backlash. I really hope people, though, will see that and be like, yes, he's giving love to my boy Kisame, because he's one of the most overlooked characters in all of Naruto. So I'm glad that I can bring some love to him there. In 6th spot, we actually have another jutsu from an Akatsuki member. In fact, the next couple are from the Akatsuki. We have Pain's Shinra Tensei technique and the universal pull / planetary devastation. But honestly, even just the Shinra Tensei technique can probably get a spot on this list. It's just a straight off repelling force of kind of telekinetic energy that repels anything that comes his way. He can use it to repel ninjutsu and taijutsu. He can use it to repel things like Amaterasu off his body with Shinra Tensei. I will say that Amaterasu didn't even make a didn't even make a placement on our honorable mentions. Name me someone that attack has taken out, and then I will put it on this list. But Shinrei Tensei, the drawback with it is that once you use it, you need to recharge with the amount of seconds that you used it for. But given what the ability does by sending people away, that drawback is very kind of it's not an issue in a lot of circumstances. Now, not only can you use this technique to just push and repel people away, it can do such devastating damage that it can take out 3 large, powerful toad summons from Naruto in Sage mode. It can send them to the goddamn kilometers away and completely take them out. But then he can also use it to destroy entire villages, which is insane. I have some placements on this honorable mentions list that I've got down here in front of me of the ninjutsu that are just destructive in nature. This technique itself is quite possibly even more powerful than them in just what we saw it be able to do to the Leaf Village. Now, when you're going to use it at that scale, it does come with side effects of not being able to use it for quite an extended period of time. But it's still like you can use it in like 10 minutes, 10, 20 minutes type of thing. It's not like you can't use it for 2 days type of thing. So it does deserve a placement on this list of just how one basic technique of pushing people away, just how strong that is. But then he can also pull people towards themselves with universal pull, which can be very useful in conjunction with other abilities if you have like a sword on you. And planetary devastation was enough to pretty much seal a 7-tailed, 8-tailed version of Kurama, which is insane because we know how much more powerful he is than the other tailed beast below him, meaning this is a technique powerful enough to trap like incredibly powerful tailed beasts. You know, that's something that the first Hokage and Madara were claiming credit to, being able to suppress tailed beasts. And Pain, while not doing it to Kurama, can do it to all the lower level ones. It's an insane ability, and it needs to be placed on this list. There are some arguments that it could be placed a spot above, but just because it does have a couple of drawbacks, it's not as deadly, I don't think, as the placement above this, and we'll get into that now, because in 5th place we have Itachi's Tsukiyomi technique. Tsukiyomi. That one's a tough one for me to say, but the Japanese god of the moon. Now, this is a very deadly technique because it's one of those one-shot kill moves. Now, we all know how deadly these are. There's a couple of them higher up on this list. Itachi can just look at you and trap you in Tsukiyomi and completely take you out. It was powerful enough to take out Kakashi, and he is someone that had a Sharingan as well. So Itachi's ability to get through someone's Sharingan defense and then even to make someone as strong as Kakashi go unconscious, I reckon this technique is working on even Kage level opponents. Now, people like Might Guy are able to defend against it by not looking in Itachi's Sharingan, and there might be a few other shinobi that have the experience of that. Maybe someone like Jiraiya, someone like the Raikage or Tsunade or Onoki, for instance. Onoki definitely, but not many of them could fight against someone like Itachi while not looking at his eyes and not being able to read his path of attacks. Might Guy is a freaking unicorn with what he can do. You can't tell me that Tsunade can do what Might Guy can in reading Itachi's feet movements to then block and avoid Itachi's attacks. Meaning, the jutsu itself, even if it doesn't hit you, it's so incapacitating to a person's combat ability that it needs to be up on this list. And that's the thing, right? Itachi, the reason why this is on the list compared to some of the other Mangekyo Sharingan techniques is that he can use this multiple times. Yes, eventually it will cause him to go blind, but he can use it quite a few times before he starts suffering those side effects. Meaning, yes, it has some downsides, but he can still use it. But technically speaking, it's such a fearful technique where this is a jutsu where it might even be better to let your opponent know what you can do. Let the mechanisms of your technique be known because then you can bluff people out, because then they're just not looking at your eyes at all to risk it, and you don't even have to use the Mangekyo Sharingan. It is completely broken, and it's because it's so deadly, even without using it, why it deserves a place on this list as well. Not only is it one-hit kill move if it hits you, it's also so dangerous that you don't even need to activate it. So it comes in on 5th place. In 4th place, and trust me, we're going to get into the honorable mentions after this placement, and then we'll get into bronze, silver, and gold. In 4th place, maybe a bit of a ranking like Kisame here. 4th place, we have Deidara's C4 Karura technique. I absolutely love this jutsu. It is so cool. Deidara makes a massive clone of himself that Tao is one of the biggest constructions slash creatures we've ever seen. Like, it dwarfs like other summonings and stuff like that. It's even probably more tall than like Choji or the Ghetto statue and stuff like that. This massive clone of Deidara, which then explodes into nothing. Ooh. It doesn't, there's not a massive explosion. This technique is so much more stronger than his C0 technique, which is just a massive fuck off AoE, massive blast radius explosive. This technique here is invisible. It releases microscopic bombs that then can get into people's bodies. Now, Sasuke was able to deflect this technique by lightning style jutsu. We're going to get into that in a second. Even Sasuke's Sharingan, only someone with a Sharingan or a Byakugan could really tell the specifics, the pinpoint specifics of what was happening with this jutsu. Yes, sensory ninjas would be able to sense that something was coming to them, but they wouldn't be able to pinpoint that it was microscopic bombs, like trying to invade people on a cellular level. Sasuke was able to see that thanks to his Sharingan, but he couldn't do anything to stop it from invading his body. The only reason why he could counter this technique is because he was a user of lightning style ninjutsu, but also because of his Sharingan being able to decipher what type of ninjutsu this was, being earth style ninjutsu, of why lightning jutsu would then negate the microscopic bombs inside of Sasuke's body. If this was used for the first time to a less perceptive ninja that doesn't have the Sharingan, this is just taking them out immediately. Even if it was used on Itachi, who it was invented for, I don't believe that Itachi has any sort of lightning release. I'd have to check the wiki for that. He certainly doesn't use lightning release in the show. But if he doesn't have that, then there's no way for him to counter this technique. Because they're microscopic and they travel in the air as well, they would probably get around Itachi's Susanoo. Now, you know, Deidara versus Itachi, how would that fight go? I'm going to save that for a future video. But you've got to remember that, you know, Deidara probably wouldn't go C4 immediately, and Itachi probably wouldn't go Tsukiyomi immediately. There's a whole bunch of stuff there that I'll go into on another video. But it is such a deadly ability. This is working on pretty much everyone in the show. Now, we say that, you know, I only give a reverse summoning technique feat to a person where we've seen it in the series, meaning against Deidara's C0 technique, I'll allow, if they can summon, I'll allow characters to reverse summon out of there, because that's what Sasuke does. Sasuke didn't see how he could reverse summon out of this because the microscopic bombs would get in his summoning creature. So you can't even reverse summon away from this jutsu. Something like, I would dare say that the only people that can really avoid this technique is Sasuke Uchiha, because he can negate it thanks to his lightning style, Obito Uchiha, because he can see it coming his way and Kamui out of there, so he doesn't have to rely on a summoning jutsu to teleport out of there, and then probably like people like Madara, just because of how sheer broken he is. But I don't see anyone else who doesn't have, because I feel like you need the Sharingan and you need lightning style ninjutsu or a teleportation jutsu with your Sharingan to be able to avoid this attack. So Kakashi would be another one, Sharingan and lightning style. Sharingan and lightning style come hand in hand a lot in the series. But yeah, it is one of the most broken one-hit kill moves in the series that doesn't get talked about enough. C4 Karura and the giant water shark bomb technique from Kisame Hoshigaki. two of my favorite, just most underrated jutsu of all time. But now we're going to go into honorable mentions, and excuse me for being very unprofessional here and looking at my phone. Just so I'm not missing any, I wrote some down here. So the most broken jutsu in Naruto that don't revolve around that don't revolve around combat, so they didn't get a placement on this list. Orochimaru's Curse Mark Jutsu, gaining him immortality. The Mytonic Regeneration Technique. That is something that works better for a healer and then also doesn't work. Like, it grants insane amounts of healing, but not to the point where you're immortal and you're regenerating at a cellular level type of thing. If a particle style erased half of your body, you're not coming back from that like you would if you were like a reanimation, for instance. The Human Puppet Technique grants you a level of immortality and allows you to also take people's corpses and turn them into living weapons. The Shadow Clone Technique, as we mentioned, the Summoning Technique might be one that you're not expecting. Not only can you reverse summon if you wanted to give people that, which is incredibly broken, you can then summon massive creatures that amplify your strength exponentially. Look at where Jiraiya would be without the Summoning Jutsu. He's just a goddamn pervy old man shooting off fire and earth style jutsus and doing his hair techniques, like Anna Rasengan. So, summoning jutsus are incredibly broken, and I reckon that should be included on the honorable mentions. Now, Kakazu's masks it deserves just to be an honorable mention to begin with. It grants immortality, it grants access to all 5 chakra natures, and it also grants you creating numerous opponents for someone to face. Incredibly deadly. The potential of that technique is insane, which I'm going to talk about in another video. I'm actually going to write it down on this list here. Because what happens if he took the heart of someone with a Kekkei Genkai? Just think about that. If he took the heart of someone with a Kekkei Genkai, would that work on his mask puppets? Could they acquire, like, the Sharingan, for instance? Can he transport his heart? And I'm inclined to believe that he can, because he talks about getting rid of his heart before his can die of old age. If he replaces it with a new Uchiha member's heart, will he gain access to the Sharingan? It's quite possibly the most potentially broken jutsu in Naruto, but that's something we'll get into on another day. The honorable mentions, just for sheer power behind the jutsu, sheer destructive power. Truth-seeking orbs, particle-style blast, and like I said, not just the Kekkei Genkai, but the dissipation of this world, or whatever it's called, the beams of particle style that they can fire off people with the Kekkei Tota. The Thousand Hands giant wood style Buddha technique, very powerful, didn't make it onto this list. The Kirin technique from Sasuke and the Rasen Shuriken technique from Naruto. The Susanoo itself, just very powerful. If we were counting Itachi's with Totsuka Blade and Yatamura, they're not jutsu, so I'm not counting them. They would be in the top 3 most likely. Tailed Beast Bomb, incredibly powerful. Jutsu that aren't on this list because of the drawbacks. I mentioned Izanagi, also Izanami, and also the Kotomakatsuki Kami technique. That's not being listed because it takes years and years to use once you've used it for the first time. Gaara's Sand, being able to defend himself automatically, incredibly broken. The Uzumaki Suppressing Chains as well, very broken too. So those were the honorable mentions I really wanted to bring up in this video. I know that was a little bit long-winded, but they needed to be discussed so they're not mentioned in the comments. I didn't want people to think that I was overlooking techniques like that. However, in our top 3, in our 3rd place with the bronze medal, we have Madara Uchiha's Limbo Clones. Now, this you could probably argue is potentially the strongest and most broken ability in Naruto. That's just a jutsu. I'm not counting it as 1 or 2 placement though, simply for the fact of, one, it's quite limiting in what it can do. It creates invisible clones that it can attack people that people can't sense unless you have 6 paths chakra. So only like 2 or 3 people in the entire show is being able to contend against it. But it is also just a clone of Madara attacking invisibility while they're invisible. It's not bringing the sheer difference that the other 2 abilities above it give the user. It's also incredibly not accessible. It is easily the most non-accessible jutsu on this list. I was even questioning throwing it on just because of how non-accessible it is. But I felt like I needed to include something like this, something from the Six Paths kind of genre. And I think the Limbo clones are the best bet. There's not much to say about it. They can be countered in a lot of ways. Like if I was Naruto himself that can defend against a Limbo clone, I'd rather defend against that than the higher two up on this list. But it should be noted that there's only a couple of characters in the whole show that can counter it. But yeah, Limbo clones number 3. As you can tell, I don't like the technique very much, so I might be getting a little bit of bias in here. But I feel like with how non-accessible it is, with how it doesn't bring... Like, they're not doing anything that Madara just couldn't do to his opponents through other ninjutsu. So, with how, if you just gain this one ability, how broken it makes you. Once again, if a normal Jonin just got this technique without any of the other Six Paths power, it's not doing him... It's doing him a lot, but not what placements 2 and 1 do. And let's get into that, because in second place, we have the Kamui technique. Easily the most powerful and hacks Sharingan ability in my mind. It grants intangibility, it grants the user to be pretty much untouchable to everyone in the series. He's able to teleport across the Naruto world, he's able to transport people into his Kamui dimension almost instantaneously. We saw how quick it worked on Minato. He was only able to avoid that thanks to his flying Raijin technique. So just like we were talking about before, it's essentially a one-hit kill move as well if he grabs you. And even if you're so powerful, other than people that can sustain themselves throughout the need of food, you don't even have to then transport yourself into the Kamui world to attack the person and get the W on them. You can just let them go in there and starve to death and die. The only person that's really countering this technique is Kakashi. It is insanely broken. The number 1 technique on this list, if you use it, you could be a Genin, and if you had the chakra to use it, you're beating pretty much, if not everyone in the entire show. This technique as well has a little bit more skill involved when it comes to combat, because there is the weakness of when you try suck someone in, you become tangible, meaning you are open to be hit. And it also there is some drawbacks on you can't stay intangible for more than 5 minutes, I believe it is. I don't know how Conan found that out, to be honest. But yeah, it is something to mention that it does have a little bit of drawbacks compared to Jutsu number 1. But yeah, Kamui number 2, I don't think it's a surprise for anyone. I think most people would have thought it was in the top 3. But the most broken jutsu in all of Naruto, drumroll please, it is the reanimation technique. This technique is disgustingly broken. It is absolutely disgusting, this technique. It is quite possibly one of the most powerful jutsus in all of anime. Like, if you put this in the Dragon Ball universe, allowed Dragon Ball characters to revive other Dragon Ball characters that have died, and grant the revived character what they get granted, it is just insane. So you can revive a corpse in Naruto. That corpse is then immortal. It cannot be destroyed in any way other than sealing it. It has infinite chakra. It has infinite revival capabilities for itself, meaning it can use things like Izanagi, use things like Amaterasu infinitely with no drawbacks whatsoever, with infinite chakra as well. It is literally the most perfect ideal body you could be in. Now, they're not as strong as they were in life by a little bit. Like, alive Madara was stronger than his reanimated counterpart. But with the fact that it grants immortality and infinite chakra, even though your chakra might not be as strong as it was in life, you're still probably more of a threat. So yeah, it's absolutely insane. And it doesn't even appear to use that much chakra at all. Kabuto was able to summon, like, God, I should have looked this up. How many reanimations do you reckon Kabuto summoned in the war? Like, at least 30 to 40 different people that he was controlling all at once. That is all over a battlefield. Imagine if he summoned all of them against one opponent. If he summoned Madara, all the Akatsuki, all the Kage, the Gold and Silver Brothers, all the Jinchuriki, he summoned all of them at once just to take on one opponent. No one is beating that. It is absolutely crazy what it can do. And if you summon that many, you can also then have them protect you as well, so you're not too weak. You can only release the technique through Genjutsu as well, which is already limiting to what people can do. But if you have the clones, like, Kabuto wasn't fighting with the reanimations next to him, meaning they could have pumped chakra into him to prevent him being caught in a Genjutsu. It can also, it's just so incredibly overpowered. I can't gush about it enough. If I could have one jutsu in Naruto to be like my fighting force technique, it would be the reanimation jutsu. Just so incredibly powerful, and it's a summoning technique, so more credence to why I included the summoning jutsu on the honorable mentions. But guys, that is the video. If you enjoyed this top 10, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't realize, we've got light in the back. I know, we're in the goddamn Twilight Saga. Twilight Saga, Twilight Zone. Jesus, Jack. It's time to go film another video. If you see me in the same shirt, that is why. We're going to try to get a lot out. I'm being able to film during the day. Finally have the house to myself. So let's make the most of it and try to get as much content out as possible. But guys, have a lovely day. Peace out. Jack Cypher.